Bryanna Jenkins from the Lavender Rights Project and Allie O'Brien, who is a political content creator with us tonight, and answer some questions about their perspective, or answer our questions about their perspective um, on leadership and young people getting involved. So I'm going to turn it over to Allie now to talk about her lived experiences and how it transformed her leadership style and understanding of public service.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie. I'm a political content creator. And I think the first couple lived experiences that like stick out to me in terms of why I got interested in civics and public service. The first one is I remember the first time that I learned about climate change when I was in middle school. I was really, really confused because my science teacher, presented this that seemed very straightforward. Like, okay, the Earth is warming up and we know exactly what's causing it. And we have these very specific solutions that scientists more or less know would be effective in getting rid of climate change. And I was like, awesome, so we're doing that, right? And I was really, really shocked to hear that that was not super duper everyone's approach. And so I remember being very perplexed. This was one of the first issues that I learned about where I felt like I had a complex understanding of how much work had gone into finding solutions for people, and they just were not like I was not seeing the grown-ups in the room responding to those things. The second like core memory I think was when I was in high school, and I had an absolute gem of a track coach, which maybe is like a bizarre thing to bring up in generally a political conversation. But this guy, his name is Desmond Dunham. I've heavily name drop him. I love to rep him everywhere I go. He When I became captain of my cross country team for the first time in high school, he sat down with me and my co-captain and taught us his leadership strategy. And he's the type of person, he's like those one in a kind, rare, like miracle people where everybody just adores him. He has like the unconditional trust of the community. He is such a like a father figure to everyone around him. He um is so everyone else oriented, like in it for the good of the whole always. And something that he taught me and my friend that really stuck with me was that there's a big difference between leaders that talk in terms of I am instructing you and leaders that talk in terms of like we are achieving a group goal together. And I think that with those two things in mind, those two experiences have shaped a lot of how I see the world and how I see um, representation and politics and what I believe are like successful campaigns, whether that's like a personal political campaign or whether that's someone rallying around an issue and being able to rally a huge number of people, is that the people who are in leadership positions should always see themselves as a guide that is really just part of the whole that is trying to accomplish something. And I hope that sort of answers your question, but I think that that's what sort of like excites me the most and drives me the most and keeps me involved in this, because there's a lot of leaders who are very I'm in charge of you oriented. And that's very frustrating, and it's very easy to like check out when you are afraid that everyone in politics is like that. And so I think that a hope for a more community oriented process is what got me really interested in staying involved.
Yeah, I think the power of community, as you alluded to, shapes minds and communities and invites other people in. So I'm glad you named that, Ali. Based off what your response, Brianna, can you share maybe like what is one local issue that you wish more young people were aware of, and that they could influence?
Ooh, this is hard because there are so many issues. I think particularly for young people, and this is something for this is something that for me, I'm technically not in youth, but I feel young. Um, but public education, I feel like we don't encourage enough younger people to like run for school boards or to participate in school boards. And this is something that I'm having an awareness of, that you don't necessarily have to be a parent in order to be on a school board. And I know that sounds weird, but um, even though for somebody who doesn't have kids and doesn't plan to have kids, I still am very much invested in the well-being of other children because I just know um, kids having access to quality education that is not encumbered by just weird laws that penalize them, financially penalize them for being inclusive and being progressive spaces and being safer spaces. Um, I think um, I think more youth or younger people should be empowered to be a part of these boards, even if you've graduated high school and you want your first stab at like at public office or your first stab to really make a difference. Something that I'm just learning through my work is that there is a lot of power on school boards at the school board level. So I think, and it's just tied to access to education, tied to freedom of speech. It's just tied. It's so foundational and it's just tied to so many things. And since so many young people are already in school or associated with school, it'll be, to me, it's the most natural step for somebody who kind of wants to get involved or who wants to be a part to really um, have an influence on education. And then it's just a pathway that could just take you in so many different directions because educational issues are so intersectional to other issues when we talk about policing, when we talk about environmental issues, when we talk about access to healthcare. It intersects and it touches on so many issues that you could spin off and land wherever you want. But I think there's often a missed opportunity for youth to be involved in like school conversations or school board conversations. And I just think it's the simple, basic misunderstanding that you have to be a parent or you have to have a child in order to be important in those spaces. And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, I think when I was in school, I remember one of my teachers saying like there is no more unique position than being a teacher because of the amount of influence that they have. Like you think about the greatest people or the people you adore, those are all folks who learned from someone else who taught them, and like just being an educator and being a teacher is so influential. Allie, what are your thoughts on this?
My first thought is that that's so brilliant what Brianna was saying. I've never considered like you don't need to have a kid. If you're in the school, of course you can be on the board that's in charge of the school. That makes perfect sense. Um, some of my other thoughts are like when it comes to local politics in general, I think people, when they first get involved in politics, are sometimes very quickly funneled into federal politics. And when they feel like something is not able to be accomplished at the federal level currently, they're like, well, that's a wrap. We can't do this thing anymore. Um, Brianna has brought up policing a couple of times. Something that I think is like a really cool example of a local project is nonviolent first responders. So, in instances where somebody is having like a mental health crisis, or some other crisis that doesn't typically require like a police response, and even someone like an armed responder coming with a weapon can really escalate as opposed to de-escalate that situation. There have been a couple of local groups and local governments who have decided that in their city, like in Portland or in Denver, they're going to create basically like a trial program that other people around the nation, if it's successful, can look at and go, oh shoot, like the people that it was really hard to convince, like, hey, we don't need armed police to be responding to everything. Well, we can look at the numbers in Denver, and this little ambulance that was going around responding to mental health crises instead of the police was actually really successful, and you can start to get some of the buy-in. I'd say another thing that immediately comes to mind is like reproductive health is something that is super not protected at the federal level under this current administration, but that doesn't mean that, for example, like if you live in a blue state, you can't contribute either monetarily voluntarily, or like your time as an escort to a local clinic to help people in safely. And if you live in a red state, you can help, say, an abortion fund that is helping people travel to other states that may not be able to afford it for an abortion. And so a lot of the things that become like really cool federal ideas start in a trial round, basically at the local level. And so you genuinely can really influence national politics from the city council, from the school board, et cetera. You just have to be sort of creative about how you can make that project look.
Yeah, Allie, I'm reminded, in your response that the greatest change that we can feel are the ones that are being done at the local level, because it is right here at home, and the folks that we elect or the folks that we have access to are the ones who are implementing and creating policy. So I'm glad that both of you, Bryanna and Allie, touched on the importance of just um, focusing on local issues. I know both of you also talked about this in the previous question, but we often see that representation matters written on our timelines. And so my question to the both of you, and maybe, Bryanna or Allie, either of you can take this first, but what does representation matters actually look like on a local level?
Do you want it, Bryanna, or do you want me to start?
I can go. I think reputation is good. I mean, not reputation. Representation. Excuse me. It's late here in Houston. Um, representation is important. I think that matters. But for me, it's important. I need representation plus what are your politics? Because I think we are living in a time where we are seeing folks that we may have the same representation, but we are not necessarily aligned in just politics and how we lean. And then therein lies the problem because it's very easy to fall into the trap of being performative and just having folks as placeholders or just thinking that because folks identify a certain type of way that they're going to have these thoughts or they're going to create policy in this way. So that's not necessarily true. So I think we all have to get to a place where we are creating spaces for the representation, diverse representation, but we're also giving space to people and actually asking them about what their politic is beyond just the representation because we can't assume anymore. And we really have to start allowing folks' actions to kind of speak for them because well I'm not gonna go there because Lavender Rage Project is a 501(c)(3), so we are neutral in our mission, but we're just in a space and time where we have to give ourselves permission to ask folks about their politics, about their lived experience, about how they got to where they are. And we have to challenge people who are the ones that have the power to create the spaces, who are the ones that have the power to create access to certain people, to also keep that in mind as well. Because just, relying on representation that is just not enough anymore in 2025.
Yeah, I would also add that um, at like if we're talking again about the local level, I think that so many people don't know their local elected officials, and that is like partially just because of the system we live in. Like I wouldn't say it's any individual's fault, but I do think that there are some people who represent constituents at the local level, right? Whether they're like the mayor of something or city council or school board who make way more of an effort to actually like identify themselves to the people that they represent. And I think that perhaps sometimes at the local level, certain people are either like complacent with, like have just become comfortable with the idea that I'm at the local level, maybe I'm not the most front-facing person, and that can be okay. But there are also people who will like take advantage of the fact that they're, and again, like I don't want to get specifically political because of our 501c3 alignment here, but will take advantage of the fact that sometimes things that are local can sort of slip under the radar. And like I think it's just a really good sign at the local level to see people actually showing up to community events, to see people actually knocking on doors, to see people actually knocking to their constituents. Because yeah, like Bryanna was saying, um, representation matters speaks not only about being able to like see yourself and see your identities in people, but also being able to have a one-on-one conversation with someone to decide, do you represent me also politically? And some people would prefer to avoid that, and that is sometimes a sign that someone is not maybe having like the best intentions.
Yeah, both of y'all responses resonate with me. Like Brianna, something you said, the phrase immediately that came to mind was like all skin folk and kinfolk. And so like you never really know just because you look like me that you understand the issues or the problems that my family cares about or that my community cares about. And then to your point, Allie, right? Like being ensuring that they are active and not only just being who they are, but they are also meeting community where they're at, having one-on-one conversations, like being present in community so that we can see them and that folks can relate to them, even if they don't always have their direct number or just see them beyond the TV screen. I think representation goes beyond and what we all look like. So I'm glad that you all touched on that as well. This next question is really about, when we're looking back at your younger self and how they see you now. This is more of like manifesting positivity and also understanding how we can be better versions of ourselves as a way to be better leaders moving forward. If your younger self could see who you are now, what would they be most proud of? And maybe we go with Brianna.
I knew you were gonna call on me first. Um, I feel like my younger self will be I think my younger self will be proud that I did not give up and that I trusted myself. So like a big part of my story was me having to like leave my hometown in order to really like come into myself and step into myself. And it was something that I like desperately younger wanted as like a young adult person just to be out on my own and see the world. And was one of the best decisions I made in my life was leaving my hometown of Baltimore, Maryland. But it's been a lot of ups and it's been a lot of downs, but ultimately I'm at a point in my life where I feel very comfortable. Um, but I also feel very fulfilled career-wise in the fact that I am like I have a job, I have a career that kind of aligns with my purpose. I'm able to work in community and be in community and really advocate, but also make connections and connect with other people. So I am the actualized version of like my younger young adult self, like going through undergrad, fresh out of undergrad, not, wondering if like my contributions to the world really matters or if anybody cares. And I can say that I am the actualized version of myself. So I think I would tell my younger self would be proud of me for pushing through despite just all of the uncertainties and the fears and just the shifts in my relationships, just trusting in myself, staying true to myself, and just valuing myself like above anything else. But I think that's what I would say to myself.
Um, on my end, something that comes to mind that I think is like a skill that I've developed that I remember my younger self thinking, okay, I need to figure out how I'm gonna make this one work. I need to learn some things here. I need to whatever, figure out how to approach this. I have always been really interested in trying to reach people um, that like their heart was in the right place, but they were a little bit off track. Like either, I think a lot of people right now are very, for example, like overwhelmed about the news cycle. They feel like they're taking in a ton of awful news all the time, which is understandable when there's like a lot of bad things going on, or scary things going on. But I was trying to figure out when I was young, I was like, we have all of this like fear and it's it paralyzes so many people. Like I felt like I interacted with so many people in my day-to-day life that cared about, human rights, that cared about certain issues, but they just didn't know how to actually turn that into anything. And they had this attitude of it's too complicated, it's too scary, it's too big, or I don't know enough, or I don't know where to start. And I think something that I'm proud of is that and I think I've sort of honed this over the course of my time as a political content creator, seeing what types of messaging resonates with people, seeing what type of tone from me makes people feel most capable and inspired um uh and like in a we mindset instead of an I'm telling you what to do mindset. I think I have done a good job recently of helping people who feel so overwhelmed by the state of the world tune back in when they had decided to just turn their ears off because they were too afraid, start to be able to consume news and take part in, you know, mutual aid or local activism or what have you, like in a way that doesn't shut down their nervous system completely. And I think that that is just humongous because I think that there are people who can benefit from scaring everyone into submission in this world. And I think that it's a really necessary skill and like a skill that I'm proud of that I feel like I'm figuring out how to rope some of those people that have been scared into submission back into finding their feet and finding their voice and figuring out something material they can do to like back up their beliefs.
Mhm. I'm hearing resilience. I'm hearing storytelling, messaging. I'm proud of y'all when y'all are talking about your own wins and what makes you proud. I'm happy to hear that. In a moment, and Allie, you sort of alluded to this, so I'm going to direct this question to you first, give Bryanna a little break here. But what gives you hope right now?
Um, what gives me hope right now is the number of people that I see that are really okay. Well, I sort of feel like I said this a minute ago, but there are a lot of people who are just like so desperate to figure out what to do. And there's a lot of people who, when I see like Hope Corps on the internet, I noticed over the years when I was trying to figure out how to be like a political feel-good creator where you could come to me for the stories that were like wins and you could figure out some cool projects to get involved in instead of just always hearing about the scary projects that other people are involved in. Like all the good news pages were like animals and pretty like travel and play, and I was like that's all awesome, but that does not change the fact that people are like scared of politics and scared of the world. I think something that's giving me hope right now is how many people I'm seeing start to feel like it's worth centering positive stories about politics to keep ourselves moving. I think there's like people are starting to recognize that it's not a good plan to just doom scroll and sort of like self it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of doom. And I think that there's like I see Gen Z talking a lot about how important it is to actually rest, to actually take care of yourself, to actually remind yourself of the good people that you're in community with and the people doing good projects. And I can see a little bit of like a collective waking up of like it doesn't make sense to intentionally make ourselves so upset all the time. There are things to be extremely upset about, don't get me wrong, and I never want to seem like I'm glazing over that. But a way like I think people are starting to talk way more about how do we be aware of these negative things and work on them while also making sure that we are staying awake and energized and in community. That gives me hope.
I love to hear that. Bryanna, what about you? What brings you hope in this moment?
The past brings me hope. Particularly as somebody that works advocating for trans folks, for Black trans folks. Um, our communities have existed since the beginning of time, and we have existed with less, and we have existed even when people said that we did not exist. So I know that we will exist beyond this time. So I'm lucky enough to have somebody on staff. We have a Black trans woman who's our director of programs, 75-year-old Black trans woman who can tell you about when she was in elementary school and she went to the Black only elementary school. So like that much lived experience on our staff. People that had way less than we did, but were still able to live their lives and be themselves and figure out ways to build community. That's just something that we do particularly as a Black folks. So we'll continue to do it no matter how many losses our communities take, how many laws that they create against us. They can't they can't really erase us. They can try to make our lives and our lived existence harder, but they're not going to stop us from living. So knowing that we were here in history and that we contributed in meaningful ways, that brings me hope. But also, going back to what Allie said, us having honest conversations about what rest looks like, because the last 6 months have been overwhelming. For me personally, and I've had to get really serious about my practice, about how I not only get rest, but how I also create boundaries in this work because this work is very chaotic and it's very brutal. And you have to be your own advocate in this work. You have to create boundaries, even if the people who are on your side react to you differently because of those boundaries. But I'm happy that we're having conversations about this because this isn't the situation that we are in right now. It's not something that's going to be fixed in 2026 or 2028. We are in a situation that's going to take decades to reverse the effects of decisions that are being currently made in this time. So, in being honest about that and strategizing for that, we have to have a plan for health, wellness, and rest if we are going to still be here 20 to 30 years from now to resist. We also have to have succession plans where we're bringing other people into power so that we are able to take rest and somebody else is able to take the baton and do their thing. But I am happy that in this time, even with the what seems like the insurmountable, that we're having conversations about the people that work in this movement work actually being human and actually being able to sustain themselves because nobody is able to do this alone and nobody is able to do everything because you will burn out.
I mean, that's so empowering to hear. I was just nodding my head to everything you all said because health, wellness, and rest. I mean, without those three things, like you don't exist in this space, right? Like, taking care of your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and your own wellness, taking the time to rest. I mean, those are all things that are important to the movement and maybe it's such a privilege to experience during this time. But to your point, Brianna, drawing stronger boundaries for yourself is something that we can all lean on and being in community and sharing these stories with each other and talking about the pretty animals that we see on the internet or the places that people are traveling to or what nature even looks like or what you're up to, what favorite hobby you have that sort of arised from this moment. I think are all ways that we continue to stay in community with each other. So yeah, I'll give it up for Brianna and Allie. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughtful perspectives with us tonight. I thought that was really meaningful to not only myself but folks who are watching this at home as well. Now I would like to turn it over to Jonathan. from the Human Rights Campaign to share a little bit more about the work they're doing as well.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you first to all the organizers, all of our partners, and certainly the speakers. The messages about our stories, our communities, our ability to accomplish great things together is what we're all doing here, and I'm thrilled. And especially to be here on behalf of the Human Rights Campaign as someone who has seen the work of Run for Something really make a difference in my own life when I was a candidate, and also in supporting so many folks I worked with as an appointee in the Biden administration. And now working at the Human Rights Campaign, advocating for LGBTQ plus communities across America. I want to give a big shout out additionally to my colleague, John Gruber, who's the director of national campaigns, a powerhouse in bringing people together to get the big stuff done, who also was the most incredible understudy as I was trapped on a train coming in from New York City for several hours. So a reminder that something we can all be advocating for is protecting us all from climate change and how it affects infrastructure. That is a pressing equity issue for all of us, including our communities. Uh, so, if you don't know the Human Rights Campaign, you've seen the equal sign, I'm sure. What does it mean to you and what does it mean to all of us? It means solidarity in the face of tremendous both onslaught and opportunity. We are 3.6 million members strong, and we are fighting for equality for all. We are looking to make sure that our workplaces, our schools, our communities are safe and strong and welcome all of us so that we can thrive, and that the policies that we help champion across the country work for all of us and all of our communities. I've been in the LGBTQ space for nearly 20 years, and what has always been something that was so wonderful to me to be in the work and in the movement was the chance that we have to not only remind our fellow Americans that we're here, we're queer, we have tremendous power in our economy, our political system, you name it, but that we as a community are a part of everyone else's. There's no such thing as a Black issue, Asian issue, a disability issue, a veterans issue that isn't also an LGBTQ issue. So our ability and the great work that HRC does with partners like this around the country in galvanizing, as the president used to say, bottom up, middle out, so that everyone feels the work. I love what Governor Shapiro says in Pennsylvania all the time, that the Jewish proverb that you don't, no one is expected to finish the job, but no one's free to not start. And that's exactly why I think it's so important to have conversations like this about being involved locally where you can make the most difference. One of the easiest ways to find out what's going on near you in our world at the Human Rights Campaign is to text 472-472. Text the word join to 472-472 so that you can get a part of become a part of our mailing list and contact for your region so that activations that are happening to drive change where you live can reach you right away. The other thing I want to point you out to is our indices. Our website is full of content that can help you as advocates and champions for your communities, your nonprofits, your businesses, yourselves, find the resources you need to make the best decisions. First, you have our municipal and state equality indexes, which help you decide where best to put your fight and your resources. We know right now the most valuable currency any of us have in the movement is attention. So being able to focus all of the attention, all the resources where it can do the most good is a strength for all of us to be able to share and helps us maximize the fight. So checking things like these indices tell you what states, what municipalities are already doing great work and might need a little boost to get over the finish line to perhaps full equality where they live, or need our help most to begin that journey so that no one is ever left behind. And certainly, I want you to think about the Corporate Equality Index and the other resources we have to think about your own economic power. The more than $917 billion that we have as consumers helps make sure that companies across the country are listening to the values of our community and are doing what's best for their people, our people inside their companies. So your dollar is often your power between votes at the ballot box. So think about ways that you can affect change right at home by watching where you spend and where you help your communities direct your money as well. And then finally, getting involved with boots on the ground action is what it's all about right now. Everyone is looking for something to do. I joke all the time about we should put the HRC bat signal up in the sky because everyone's fired up and ready to go, but not quite sure what to march towards. And right now, it's towards each other. It's towards what's happening in our local communities. And that's why I want you to once again think about texting join to 472-472 or joining through our website, hrc.org, so that you can find something happening in your neck of the woods. Because as we all know, the best way to achieve strong advocacy is to build that case at home. And if you're ever in Washington, D.C., or some of the major cities where we have many of our steering and organizing committees, you could take advantage of major actions going on there, like our Bring Andre Back campaign that we were recently a part of, to make sure that every immigrant seeking asylum receives their due process. There's so many examples like that for you to be a part of our work and for us to help put a spotlight on what you're doing in the community. So as you're thinking about leadership and you're thinking about community opportunity, it doesn't always have to be the largest, the biggest, the most extravagant campaign. It can be as little as postcards to your representatives, door knocking on your own street, a way that helps people identify that we're the good guys and we're here to help. So I want to thank Run for Something and all the partners again for being a part of this. We have so much good that we can do together, and I hope you'll reach out to us at the Human Rights Campaign to come join our work. And we look forward to seeing you across the country as we bring the great work to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. And that was great information that you shared with us. And we're excited to see who signs up with you all. Next up, we have Sarah from the LGBTQ plus Victory Institute, who will also share some of the work they're doing as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Echoing everything that John just said, it's really great to be a part of this wonderful network of folks who are sharing strategies and having such important conversations when, we've been talking about folks are kind of looking for something to do. So here to share some additional resources from LGBTQ plus Victory Institute, where we really focus on advancing the number of out LGBTQ folks who are in elected and appointed office. And so we've had the pleasure of working with many folks who are on this call. John himself was in one of our candidate and campaign trainings that I'm going to talk about in a second. So it's fantastic to see all of the overlap that we have in this community that we're building together. And I am a lover of a visual aid. So if I could share my screen, perfect. I have permission to do that. This way you can all take a look at some of the resources that we do have available for you. So LGBTQ plus Victory Institute is the 501c3 nonprofit arm of the LGBTQ Victory family. We have a sister organization that is a 527 PAC, but today I'll be focusing on our nonprofit organization that really focuses on educational tools and bringing folks together to make sure that we're also sharing the tools that we have. So as we discussed, representation is not a one size fits all, but representation does help folks feel like they have a seat at the table and are able to really advocate for the needs that our communities may uniquely have. As John said, not one issue is really aligned with one identity. There's a lot of intersectionality, and so it's really important that we have a representative group of folks who are in our governing bodies. So right now, we are very specific with the language we use. We say there are 137 known out LGBTQ plus elected officials in the US. So we have a tool that I'll mention in a second called Out for America that focuses on highlighting the levels of office that folks are serving in right now that are out LGBTQ plus folks. We are able to break it down by gender, by race, by region, by level of office, so that folks are really able to see who is serving in their community and who are folks who maybe share some of those intersecting identities that you haven't seen someone who holds those identities that you may have. And so you're able to see where they are and able to find ways that you can contact them and get to better understand their positions. But given that we are a very large country and we only have 1,337 known out LGBTQ plus elected officials in the US, that means we're only representing 0.26% of US elected officials in the country. And so knowing that the conservative effort is, or conservative count is that 9.3% of the US population is LGBTQ plus, this means we need 46,000 more out LGBTQ plus elected officials in order to really achieve fair representation. And so as an organization, our goal is to really focus on connecting folks to the resources and the tools in order to do that, in order to find the right place for them to ensure that they are representing their communities in the best way. So one of the programs we have are called candidate and campaign trainings. These are bootcamp style trainings that really dig into the nuts and bolts of running for office. So those skills like messaging, uh, get out the vote, fundraising, and then of course the nuances of running as an out LGBTQ plus candidate and the questions that you may ask or how to talk about different issues. And so we go over that in the 4-day trainings. But for folks that are thinking about that, we have a really cool tool that we developed where you can research different positions that are available in your area. The majority of elections, especially at the local level, are uncontested. So using this tool, you can find the right position for you. So we have a variety of different trainings, some that are as short as 30 minutes, and then some that go as deep as that 4-day training. And so it's kind of not a one size fits all. You kind of figure out where you are in the learning process and proceed from there. And then in addition to that, we have a variety of programs for the various positions in the pipeline. So we have a congressional internship for college students. We have a congressional fellowship for recent grads. And then we also have electoral education programming that digs a little bit into more of those intersecting identities that we were talking about. So we have the Empowerment Fellowship that is for LGBTQ plus folks of color and or trans folks to really help reduce the barriers that exist in accessing campaign training. And then we have an advanced training for out LGBTQ plus women because LGBTQ plus women run at lower rates than LGBTQ plus men, but they win at higher rates than LGBTQ plus men do. So it's really about helping folks access those tools. And one of our main avenues is the International LGBTQ plus Leaders Conference that we host every December. And so in addition to that, and I'm skipping ahead for the sake of time, but happy to chat with any folks one-on-one. Once folks have gone through that process, have run for office, we don't just leave them hanging. It's really important to us that we engage those 1,300 folks who are holding elected office to make sure that they're feeling supported when they're in public office. There are unique mental health challenges that folks who hold public office may experience, that folks who maybe cisgender and straight wouldn't have those same challenges or wouldn't have the same types of, realistically attacks that the out LGBTQ plus community may experience while holding public office. So we, again, have this tool where you can look up where folks hold public office. You can break it down by level, break it down by identity. And these are great ways to understand, who is representing us and where are they coming to us and how can we better support them? And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our global programming. So we have really robust programming all over the world. We're a very small but mighty team. There's about 20 of us on our staff. So definitely, I always say, please be patient when you email us. Sometimes we're working on 5 different programs at the same time, but just making sure we're delivering great content to you all. So if you have any questions or reflections that you want to share with us, or you have any questions for me, I'm happy to connect with anybody. So thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. And I hope that I get to connect with some of you.
Thanks, Sarah. Now we've got some audience questions that we'd like to address. And actually, during that presentation, maybe Sarah, you can take this, Jonathan, you can take this, or anyone else on the call can take this. But the question that we got from James is, what qualifications should a person who is interested in running for office have or pursue?
I think that's a great question. I'm happy to jump in, but definitely want to hear what John and Allie have to say. I'm going to just say it, there's no one size fits all, which is why I really do encourage folks to take a look at that tool of available positions. And I'll be sure that that's shared out with folks. But with that tool, you can look and see what are the available positions and maybe what are my qualifications that I have. So Bryanna was talking about school board. Have you been a student before? I think most of us have been. And so we have some experience of what is it like being in a school, or are you a parent? Are you a community member who's really involved? So there's so many different avenues that you can come in, and we need folks from all different backgrounds. We're not a diverse representative group of people if we all have the same occupation, if we all have the same exact lived experiences. So I think it's really great when folks from all different walks of life come into this space.
Plus one on so many counts. I couldn't agree more. It is deeply personal. One, because not only is it a reflection of what you want to give to the world, but the vulnerability that you need. Right, you have to think about how much do you react to a comment thread about you right now on your personal Facebook feed versus when the whole world is weighing in, and people you've never met are going to have an opinion. And there are implications on your family, on your job. There's so much to think about. But if the thing that resonates with you is serving, do it. We just need more people stepping up, and I couldn't agree more that everything from school board to president matters, but so do boards of directors, so do seeking appointments on commissions and councils. There's so many ways to directly tie what you care about, and as Sarah said, really being sort of the subject matter expert. I think about some of the most successful people I worked with in the administration and currently at HRC across the community. It's sort of the unexpected person in the room that brings that diverse viewpoint. There is someone who, if the board is made up entirely of educators, but no, like as Sarah said, no parents, no child caregivers, no bus drivers, no one that actually knows the ins and outs of how the world works, it's not going to work. I'm thrilled that in this time of climate change, for example, we've got the first openly gay meteorologist elected to Congress so that he can say, look, I know about this because I do it. I am a real expert, and the people trust me to be a voice on this. And so, sort of growing where you're planted from the organizations you support, the networks you're a part of, is one of the best ways to be their champion. And then that group helps carry you to the next opportunity. So, you don't have to bite the apple all at once, but if service is calling you, listen to it, because it's a real privilege and a real honor to get to be the voice for so many people who need it.
I would add one thing too that's less logistics that you all have and more just if you're struggling with imposter syndrome, I think you can look at a lot of the people that are currently in our government and you can go, oh my gosh, that's crazy. If they're qualified, I think I am too. And maybe that can help you out.
Amazing. That is such great feedback. And I feel fired up. Maybe I'll consider a run for office myself, but I think just the conversation, that question itself felt so authentic. And that's maybe the message and the takeaway from this question is being authentic to who you are and what you care about, and showing up in your community authentically as well. All right, folks. Well, that just about wraps it up for us tonight. If you are feeling inspired after tonight, please also visit next100days.net to sign up and to learn more about running for office and connect with the Run for Something Civics team. Once you sign up, you'll also be invited to complete the Run for Something Civics Future Candidate Training, where you can develop your leadership and prepare a run for office. So join us. Again, that link is next100days.net, and the 100 is not spelled out. It is literally numbers 100. I want to thank our amazing panelists, Bryanna and Allie. Thank you so much for being here. And I also want to thank our partners, Jonathan from Human Rights Campaign and Sarah from the LGBTQ+ Victory Institute for joining us tonight as well. And last but not least, to those watching from home, thank you for joining us tonight. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and we will see you all again.